Hello and welcome to Who Books That with Harrison Greenbaum. I'm your host, Harrison Greenbaum, and this is presented, as always, by the International Brotherhood of Magicians, an incredible organization, which if you'd like to join, if you're not already a member, you just go to magician.org/join-the-IBM/join. It's super simple, and it's a great organization bringing you programming just like this. My name is Harrison Greenbaum. You can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Harrison Comedy. Pretty easy, Harrison Comedy. And this show is every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. if you're on the East Coast, 4 p.m. if you're on the West Coast, and 6 p.m. if you're in the weird middle. But this has been an incredible journey. We're already on episode 15, if you can believe it. We've interviewed some of the greatest magicians from around the world. It's so exciting. Last episode, we had Lance Burden. It was an incredible journey through his life and his incredible work. And today, we have such a special guest. I am so thrilled and honored to have this performer on the program. He is a legend, and that is official. He's in the Society of American Magicians Hall of Fame, which just happened in January of this year at the SAM 2020 convention in Las Vegas. He has a career that spans decades. He's a giant influence on so many performers around the world. He is the founder of the Mystery School and has been working tirelessly throughout this pandemic, bringing magic and teaching magic throughout this crazy time via virtual shows and virtual classes, which we'll talk to him a little bit about in a bit. But it is so exciting to present to you. Make some noise. Get excited. Clap your hands from your apartments. It's JEFF McBRIDE, everybody. This is the most magical entrance we've ever received.
Well, very good. All magic first. That's my battle cry when I work with students, especially for stage magic. Got to get your attention. You don't have the attention of the room. You don't have the attention of the room. They can't follow you for the rest of the ride. It's great to be here, and congratulations on your 15th show. Bravo.
This is crazy. I have made zeros and zeros of dollars. It's been phenomenal.
Wow. Well, it's like the entire world is now online and, learning how to interface and use their magic through this technology. So thank you for bringing people together through the International Brotherhood of Magicians. I myself am a life member. I myself really support the International Brotherhood of Magicians. And you just mentioned Lance Burton. Every year we put on the Teen Magic Seminar, and the Teen Magic Seminar is free to any member of that's a teen of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. That's a teen. And that's going to be online this year, 2 days online. The Mystery School helps Lance host that every year for many years now. So there's a lot of people being very generous online, including the International Brotherhood of Magicians. Great. I wanted to support this.
We were promoting it on Lance's episode, but yeah, it's very easy. If you go to the IBM website, all the information is there. There are still slots available. It's in July. It's 2 days, and it's an incredible program. We have people also, by the way, tuning in from all across the country and around the world.
Around the world? Who? Now they just put in the chat box where they're from. Where are they from? I'm here in Vegas, and you're what? You're over here in Connecticut. Are you?
I'm in New York. I wish I had enough money to be in Connecticut.
Okay. What part of New York? What part of New York?
I'm not too far from where you were. I'm on 56th.
I'm on 52nd and 8th, but I used to live on 57th and 9th as well.
Yeah, actually,
I know the area.
An old playing card of yours, and the reason I thought it was cool was it has your address on it, the 305 West 52nd Street address.
Oh my God, that's right across from Studio Instrument Rentals, the famous rock and roll studio. Yeah.
Did you put your actual address on these playing cards?
I did. That was we didn't have websites. Now we have websites.
That's much safer. I think it's pretty scary to hand out. You were handing out your address on the streets of New York City on the back of playing cards.
I would give them to select clients. Right. That is true. That is true. Now that could get you in a little bit of trouble these days.
And we were talking about around the world, Linda Harrison, who's been watching all these episodes. She's amazing. She's in Perth on the western part of Australia.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah. I have a lot of friends down there, and I got to perform for the Australian Magician Society for their centenary or something. It was great down there. And I have Sam Angelico is a dear friend of mine, and he's a FISM winner. He represented Australia at the World Championships in Madrid and won first place.
And the cool thing in Australia is the dancing canes rotate in the opposite direction that they do in the U.S. Amazing.
That's great. Well, it's great to be here. And when you
I want to dive right into it because I tried to read everything I can about you.
Right.
I found your first appearance in Genie magazine, which was in 1992. Max Maven interviewed you. And he started off by saying this. He said, I think most readers are very familiar with your work, and the basic information about your career has been published several times. What I'd like to address is that you underwent a significant transformation several years ago, which was evidenced both on and off stage. Your work became richer, and I think you got rid of a lot of stress and anger. So
I used to be an angry young man.
Can you take me back and tell me what was the source of that anger? What was happening in there?
You know, living in New York, let's talk about that.
I could relate to that.
I lived in New York in the late 70s and 80s, which was, Death Wish New York, Charles Bronson Death Wish kind of New York. So
it was the Warriors New York.
Right. I grew up in the Catskill Mountains in upstate New York and got my beginning working at the Catskill resorts. Even in my teens, I was working at the Concord and Kutcher's and the Nevele and all the big hotels up there. And then when I graduated high school, I went right to New York City. And New York City audiences were really tough on magic. So if I didn't combine all of these other skill sets of my martial arts training, and I was studying pantomime at the American Mime Theater, and I was taking dance with Betsy Hogg and Frank Hatchett at the different dance studios in town, and combining just to get their attention. And I was working really rough rock and roll clubs, and I developed a really aggressive style, which caught on. My agent, I was doing lots of shows in upstate New York. I think you have a picture too.
I do.
Lance started at Tombstone Junction. I started at the Orange County Fair. We were doing the same thing. Lance was doing, parties and family shows, and so was I. And then we're doing 5 shows a day, at this fair, doing a dove act outside.
Yeah, I take a picture of that as well.
Right. Oh, wow. You certainly do. That is the Orange County Fair. And that's me doing my impression of Jeff Sheridan doing his Swan Lake rope trick. I was going through my Jeff Sheridan phase at that time. I'm sure about it. I know that. And
I love in this photo that even the babies are into your magic, which is a very hard thing to achieve. They're a finicky audience, and that baby right over here is wrapped.
Yeah. I worked 10 years a row, 5 shows a day.
That was Jack Goldfinger.
Excuse me?
I'm kidding. Baby grew up to be Jack Goldfinger.
That's right. There you have proof in print. So we were both doing lots and lots of shows. And because we did so many shows, we got the polish on. Lance says, you got to do 1,000 shows. And he talks about your Hamburg and all of that. Well, this was the place I got my polish on. But I in order to deal with the club audiences and the rock and roll clubs, because I was fronting a lot of bands, I developed this really aggressive style with this character, and it kind of seeped into me. This was kind of armor. My masks were kind of armor for these audiences.
And did you seek out the rock clubs, or did the rock club, was it one of those things where that was where the work was coming from, so you adjusted, or did something about what you were doing have them call you?
See, here's the thing, and I had the right act at the right time for the right venues. Why? Okay. Now, if you've read Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he talks about how environments shape talent and also ages. And it's a wonderful book. My theory is illusionists come from the Midwest and places like Michigan and around Abbott's and rural areas because they have trucks, cars, and barns to put this stuff in. Close-up magicians are bred in inner cities where it's tight. Tokyo has great sleight of hand people. Madrid, great sleight of hand people, because you got a deck of cards and that's all you can fit in your studio apartment.
Right, and you have to get on the subway with your stuff, so what you can fit in a backpack.
Exactly. So I had to play big venues, really big venues, and be able to get it in a cab or a taxi, because no one has a car when you're a teen in New York trying to pay parking. I don't think so. And whatever you have, I lived in walk-up buildings. I had to carry it up. So my commando show that I teach was pack small, play big. And not only that, here's the other thing. In order to front bands, and that's where I got seen by the top agents, in order to front bands, you have to work in this little tiny strip either in front of the curtain, because the band has the setup, or you're stepping over their pedals and mixers. You could not push an illusion on. You couldn't get a sub trunk on and off stage or a zigzag because there's too many wires and you have to work around the band. But I figured it out because I did hundreds and hundreds of shows fronting bands. And that's where I got seen when I was doing, Cafe Versailles and Club Ibis, these nightclubs in New York, which were kind of the French Folies Bergère style shows that were popular in the 70s. Every showroom in Vegas had one, so New York had one too. And I worked there 13 shows a week for $100.
Wow.
Like 13 shows a week. And they were full-on production shows with a dance line, a couple of acts, an adagio, dance team, gauchos, female impersonators, jugglers. And I was the magician in the show. $100 a week I got. And 13 shows a week. And on Sunday, my day off, I had the choice of either collapsing or I would go to Catch a Rising Star and watch all the comics. That's where I would, got to know Gilbert Gottfried and all these people that were doing the same thing I was, doing as many shows as they possibly could. And that's what got me seen by Bill Barnes, my agent, who introduced me to Babs DePass, who was Suzanne DePass, who the owner of Motown.
Yeah.
And we got my videotape. It was actually shot on film. Then we transferred it to like one of these giant tapes, and we slipped this. My manager slipped this to Miss Ross's dresser, who was dressing her. And while Miss Ross was putting on her makeup, her dresser said, "Hey, let's put on this tape of Billy Barnes' new magician." And she was putting on her makeup and watching me in the mirror on a like a Betamax or something. And she said, "Call Billy Barnes. He's going to be my opening act." And I was toured with her for 4 years. And we worked in the round a lot. And we worked some of the, Caesar's Palace was where I made my Vegas debut. But we talked about this before, Diane, this was my big break after doing just thousands of shows and crappy, who's booking that sort of condition, right? So I finally get to drum roll, Radio City Music Hall, both with Diana Ross and then with Cheap Trick and John Waite, and still opening for bands. And still, I'm at the biggest theater in the world, and I'm still getting like 3 feet in front of the curtain.
Right. And by the way, if there's ever a band to be on the same marquee with as a magician, Cheap Trick is pretty amazing.
Yeah, right. And I worked with there, and I got to be a favorite at Radio City Music Hall. And here's the thing. I was doing my masks, my kabuki, my cards, and no IMAG, no video support.
It's a 6,000 seat theater.
Biggest proscenium theater in the world, right? You're a full city block away, but the way they have it, the eye is incredible because the eye can like zoom in when it's lit right and see the show. And there's, I believe, and please correct me, someone in the chat room, I think it's only 2 people have ever worked that stage with just a pack of cards. And it's me and Cardini. And I'm glad to be in that company.
And you knew Cardini's wife, I believe, right?
I had met Swan a number of times at the Tannins Jubilee. At the Tannins Jubilee, she was like a VIP, and she would always, get up there. And because I grew up near Gardner, New York, which that's where they retired. I'm a big Cardini fan. So that was my trajectory that got me to Las Vegas. And after I got to Las Vegas, and this is getting back to the crux of Max Maven's thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
I was headlining the Las Vegas Hilton in the mid 80s, the largest room in Vegas, in the Bal de Moulin Rouge, which was the biggest show in Vegas. Lance was down the street at the Tropicana as an act, and I started an act, and then I headlined the show. And I had reached the kind of ceiling of what I reached my childhood dream in my mid-20s. Like 25 years old. And I said, there's got to be more than this. So I took about 2 years, kind of backed off the intense Vegas thing, and just traveled around and studied different spiritual traditions. I spent a lot of time with Native American, medicine teachers, and I went to a number of ashrams and drumming. I met my wife at a drum circle. Where did you find these? I know all these people. These are crazy. I was just now these are close to 30 years old. These photos that you're looking at. And I'm still in touch with every single person there. Right?
Yeah, here's a close to that group.
That's right. Look at the hair. Look at the hair. I still know all of these people. They still look at that. Wow, you did some research here, right? That's like Duran Duran of the magic right there. All drummers.
That's either a drum circle or you're ready to go to Woodstock. It's perfect.
I was at Woodstock. Dude,
on the right side.
My parents took me to Woodstock in 1969. I was there. I saw Country Joe and the Fish. I saw Santana, the afternoon set of Santana, because that's where I saw two drummers the first time. I was 9 years old. I was at Woodstock.
Was it to this age?
That's when I first started getting into magic. That's little. That's my sister Donna, and that's my brother Clay, who's a famous photographer. Clay Patrick McBride, a very famous photographer, and he does all the stuff for Steve Cohen too. Does really good photos. And my sister Jackie, the family portrait. Yes.
It's also
wow. You have to give me these photos. I don't even have these photos. I don't have this photo. Where did you get this?
I found it through your sister's Facebook page.
Oh my goodness. You've been doing some real sleuthing here.
Oh yes. I'm like a private eye. What about this picture is that you're in all black. You have a turtleneck, and the rest of your family is very bright and sunny. Is that reflective of your relationship at that time? Were you a little bit? Does that reflect kind of what you were doing?
You know, I was really into masks and monsters and famous monsters of filmland, and you know, I was really into kind of shape-shifting out of being a human into a superhero. I mean, I still wear a cape and boots. I'm a superhero. You know, superheroes don't just wear jeans and stuff. Come on. You know, that's for Clark Kent, and he doesn't even wear jeans, you know.
Well, this is great because it looks like you're in the cast of Dark Shadows, and they're in the cast.
Barnabas Collins was my hero. I bought the Dark Shadows Barnabas Collins game just to get the fake teeth. They were really good fake teeth, the vampire teeth.
I feel like what you should do is Photoshop this Jeff McBride out, and then just age your sister so that there's a series of photos.
That's right. I was always into monsters and things, and now I've shed a lot of that. I moved a lot of that through the drumming and through studying with people like Eugene Berger, and now those monsters don't scare me because I have the power of magic. Back by the power of light, I compel thee back into my past. Well, now it's all about the light.
Well, one of the things that was so interesting is, so you're a New Yorker, you're living in an apartment, you're doing rock clubs, you have this sort of transformational spiritual experience. You go to Native American drum circles, you explore Japanese traditions, you're at the base of Mount Fuji, I think, Fiji.
Wow, you've been doing that's with Kitaro, doing an all-night drum vigil, on the solstice with Kitaro, playing taiko drums.
And is it one of those things where you at first you realize that you need to you're changing your spirit, or is it one of those things where the magic starts first and then it changes who you are?
I think it's for me, I was searching for wisdom. That's what I was now in retrospect. I was kind of in a place where a lot of the elders in the magic community taught me skills to get me on stage. And I did that. But I didn't have great skills off stage. And I had this great external persona, but I was wanting to fill my spirit a little bit. So I went around and then I found Eugene Berger, who kind of had the magic and the philosophy. And we'll just call it philosophy at this point. Perennial philosophy.
He had the wizard beard.
Yeah. And I wanted to spend more time with people like him. And that's why we created the Mystery School. This is the 30th anniversary of Mystery School this summer. And I wanted to spend some time with Eugene. So we created a retreat that was away from the city, away from a party environment. And that was, and that's Jack Adams. Jack Adams, a great actor, magician in New York City. And he had a link to this retreat center in upstate New York. And there's Eugene and Abigail, who I had met at a conference that I went to called Rites of Spring. We became friends. We were friends for 9 years before we became a couple and then married. And she was there, and the reason I was gravitated towards Abigail is because she was an incredible drummer. She studied with Babatunde Olatunji, and one of the great African drummers. And so she would play music in my show, and I got to spend more time with people that had a rich interior life. That's what Tamariz calls it in the Seven Veils lecture. He talks about, you can tell if a magician has a rich interior life, or if it's just about the flash magic on the outside, or whether they actually have a deep understanding of life. And I wanted to spend my time with those people and cultivate those relationships, because I'd kind of seen what the glitz and the glamour and the nightlife of Vegas was. You know, this happened to Channing Pollock too. Channing Pollock said, because he spent a lot of time teaching at the mystery school too, and he moved from California to Vegas for the last part of his years. We had a special conference for him called Legends of Magic, kind of welcoming into the Vegas magic community. And he said, Jeff, I got into show business because I wanted to be where the fun was. And then after I got successful, everybody started to turn to me to supply the fun. And that was a lot of weight to bear. Johnny Carson said this too before he was tired, before he retired, because he got tired. He said, it's like hosting a party 200 nights a year and you're the host.
Right.
And some, you know, and after so many years, I needed a break from that and needed to step back. And this is in my mid-20s. I had accomplished my childhood dream. Lance and I were working down the street from each other. You know, Siegfried and Roy's over here. David Copperfield's there. I'm at the Hilton. Lance is down the street. I'm like 25 or 26. And I'm going like, I got to get off this carousel. And I took some time out. And that's why we created the mystery school, to spend time with Max Maven for a week. Not in a hotel, no phones. To spend a week with Ormond McGill, the dean of American hypnotists and one of the great magicians of our time. And Charles Reynolds, who was Doug Henning's illusion consultant, Peter Samuelson, Stephen Minch, some of the deep thinkers in magic. And that's why we started to draw kind of the philosophers of magic that were also performers. They had a beautiful expression of magic, but they also had a rich interior life and an understanding of the great love that we can share through magic and the great healing it could bring. So magic brought me a great deal of healing when I was making a transition from an angry young man to kind of a balanced individual that could hold good relationships with people, both teachers and students.
Yeah, I mean, you might have been one of the first people to go to Las Vegas and become more spiritual. So that's also a record you might have.
Well, you know, Las Vegas has more light per square inch than anywhere else in the world. You know, there's also a lot of shadow and darkness. But I have a theory: where there's light, there's magic. And thousands of years ago, when the sun would set, people would come around the tribal campfire, play their drums, tell their stories, and listen to the magicians tell of their incredible adventures. And the same thing happens even today. The sun sets, the people come to where the lights are to play music, to hear stories, songs, and to listen to the wonder workers tell of their marvelous adventures to other worlds. Where there's light, there's magic. So what we're doing, what the shaman thousands of years ago did, what the shamans of today still do, or what the showmen are doing, gathering people together in the light to share stories.
Well, that is something I wanted to talk about a little bit more, because I think a lot of magicians become skeptics. There's a lot of atheists in the magic community. Because they know how magic works, and magic has been used in the past, the oracles of Delphi, the spiritualists in the 20s. Magic has been used to give the appearance of real magic when it doesn't exist. But you believe in real magic, and how do you connect the skeptical brain of a magician to the spiritual belief of a shaman?
Well, I don't try to do that anymore. People will have their own experience. I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. When people come to the mystery school, I teach magic. I teach good magic. That's, and I leave the other stuff aside. There's no politics. There's no religion. We just talk about good magic. And that's what we can agree on. Fellowship across differences, as Eugene Berger used to say. Fellowship across, because people have different points of view depending where. If you asked me at 18 years old what I would be doing today, I wouldn't have been able to tell you or hear you. So our life experiences leads us down the path of our to wisdom. And I've always been attracted to magical wisdom. And that's why that's our website, is Magical Wisdom. I think people need wisdom in challenging times. And so much of the internet is peer-to-peer. And I learn from studying with masters. I learn when I spend time with Johnny Thompson. I learn when I spend time with Juan Tamariz. I learn when I spend time with Eugene Berger. I learn when I spend time in New York City with Frank Garcia and Slidini, or out in California, sitting watching Vernon work. And I learn from masters, and I like that relationship. And just instead of, hey, everybody, hive mind, what's the best 3 tricks for strolling? Go. No, that's not my way. I want to seek experience, not just popular opinion.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think one of the things that has come up a lot in when I read about you is the idea of finding a mentor and being a mentor, and that sort of apprentice relationship as well. How do you, because you also, on the other hand, are a big stressor of original magic, creativity. How do you create a mentor relationship where you're learning from somebody else without accidentally becoming a copy of that person?
Well, early on, you have to imitate before you innovate. You have to be able to play the piano like the composer arranged those notes, because there's a reason why the master did that, and a reason you should play this because it will teach you this aspect of music theory. After you master your craft, then you can develop original material. But to put a pressure on a student at the very beginning to be 100% original, sometimes when I started, I was a top 40 kind of wedding band of magic. And that's okay. And there are people that go out there and they get a Kevin James bowling ball, and they get a hug kill, and they get a Bill Abbott, and they're all gem routines. But then after doing those routines, and maybe a snowstorm finale, you got to do a snowstorm finale. And after you get the audience is going to teach you. The audience is going to teach you how to make it your own if you're willing to grow. But you kind of have to get on stage with a Fantasio cane, giving it lots of throttle, to make it disappear, and do a Lance Burton match pull, and, do a couple of other people's things, and a couple of Copperfield poses, and, whatever kids are doing today. And the audience is going to tell you what you need to do. I was so many versions of so many people. I had a Richard Ross clock act before I had the mask act, but it was the Richard Ross clock act that, masks, I can use masks. But if it wasn't for learning multiplying billiard balls and then seeing Richard Ross do the clocks and me kind of copying that, now I have the clocks in my collection, by the way. So,
by the way, when you mentioned the snowstorm, Peter Samuelson, who's watching, he said, "Hey now."
Oh no! There was a time when I did Peter Sam. I did Peter Samuelson. Doing it. And I always wanted to get inside. Because no one. I was even talking to David Copperfield about this a little bit. Everybody thinks Peter has the best snowstorm, untouchable. The story, the mood, the whole thing, but the story and the macrocosm and the microcosm, there's this beautiful thing there. But he made it his own. He's not doing Snowstorm in China. He's doing Snow Globe in Peter Samuelson's family room.
Right.
He's not doing, but he started doing Snowstorm. He didn't come out of I spent a lot of time. Peter Samuelson was one of our special guests at Mystery School. Thank you for mentioning that, because he was a guy that I wanted to spend more time with, not so I could copy his routines, but so he could share some of his theory on magic, because he's one of the deep thinkers of magic. So he started doing, this is an important teaching lesson. Peter started doing Snowstorm in China, and then he did Snowstorm, at his family's, this beautiful piece of the snow globe. And I'm sure David Copperfield started doing Snowstorm in China too, and then he made it about the first time he ever saw snow. That thing. So everybody will have their individual take, but it takes time and polish. And I hear that we're actually in a little while going to take a tour of the Magic and Mystery School.
Ooh.
Could we show them a little bit about what's going on here?
Oh, I don't have the video loaded up, but I wanted to go back to 1 second, which was
okay.
Copperfield talking about the first time he saw snow, even though he grew up in New Jersey where it snows every winter.
Well, you got to have a narrative, and David has had more success creating narrative magic. So it creates the illusion. We know things, and but it's the combination of storytelling and magic. And when Copperfield created those incredible vignettes, that was the real breakthrough. No one had ever approached magic with the eye of a cinematographer. Ever, really, unless you go back to Méliès, really. But there was this, and then Copperfield comes along and does these beautiful narrative passages, and he put his own stamp on just about everything, and innovated so much over his lifetime, and still is with his museum. My God, have you visited the museum?
I have not yet, but I've heard and seen pictures, and it looks unbelievable. You
will see it as soon as the clouds pass and this is all over. It is it's heaven on earth. Now, were you a Tannen's guy when growing up?
Tannen's Magic Camp? Yeah. I was a Tannen's Magic Camper, yeah.
Okay. So you know that David has recreated 1960s, 70s Tannen's at his shop.
Oh, last year at Magic Camp, we Skyped him in, and he gave us a tour of the Tannens he had rebuilt, and the photos that Tony Spina and others had hung on the wall are literally still there. Exactly.
That's right. That's right. It's heaven on earth. It's heaven on earth. It's really great.
I wanted to go back, and we were talking about starting off as a cover band, but then going to original magic. I think a lot of magicians stay in that cover band phase for far too long. How do they decide? Because like you, for example, your mask act, you were already in your 20s having developed this piece that was very original. No one was doing something that, it was an extraordinary piece.
Yeah. However, I did a Jeff Sheridan act. I did a Lou Lancaster money act, was dollar bill manipulation with, I still, work on it. There's a book called Magic is a Hobby by Bruce Elliott, where there's Colma has a whole money act. And so I was doing the money act in my teens, and did it at the Tannen's camp too.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's right. I had many different acts. I thought the money act was going to put me over the top. Standing there producing handful after handful of bills. I thought that was everybody's dream. That's a dream act, right? I didn't have it. And I performed that in New York City a lot. I performed a whole, the mime act, before I came up with the mask, was a mime and magic act, and very inspired by Vito Lupo, was a breakthrough artist that I'd seen, and he went on to win FISM, General Magic, with that Pierrot act of his. So everybody was looking for an original act, but you had to do conventional acts. But I had my Richard Ross clock act, I had my Jeff Sheridan act, I had my money act, I had my mime act, and then finally the mask act, when I started putting all of my other passions into my magic, and started fusing my other skills, so it became multi-dimensional instead of just like a flat magic act. Most magic acts that I had seen had just stood on stage and did like manipulation, and I was one of the very first magicians to like really move through the stage and really rock the stage with movement. And that's because I had only this little strip to work a lot of times, so I had to move back and forth like a plate spinner, because just to stand here is boring, and people want to move in clubs. They want to look around. They want to get energized. So that's how I developed that style. So and right now, young magicians, any magician that is watching the show, has an opportunity to use this new medium of streaming online or platforms, whether it's Zoom or any other platform, to get your repetitions and to get your shows. Every conversation you have with a person on the internet is one more opportunity where you can work on your magic. And there's some incredible advantages to this medium, to working in this frame, this proscenium. This is our proscenium frame. And there's limitations. And I think a good magician can work in the real world, in real time, not just sweetened kind of TikTok, Instagram magic that's a little sweetened, but they can work in this frame and also on stage. So I think this is an interesting time that we're looking at, because you can do stuff in this format that you could just not possibly do before. Like, I'm setting up tricks right below me so I can.
Nice.
Yeah.
I guess
there's perspective illusions too. Perspective illusions. Like, let me see. Okay, gonna produce a little demon here for you. You can't really do that outside of this medium.
I think I want to make a repeatable GIF of that moment and use it for when certain people call me. Okay, I got it. But I think it's interesting because we were talking about doing virtual shows. A lot of them are going on the internet. Some of them are there on video. And again, with that idea of imitating it, I think it's trying to put, I think that the magic needs to push people more towards, yes, you might want to learn your chops when you're 15, but if you're still 30, 40 doing other people's acts, there's a part where you need to grow and start working on that unique thing that is original to you. And I think the mystery school does a really good job of pulling that out of people.
For people that want it, that want it, you know, do you ever read that blog, The Jerks?
I have, yes.
He says a lot of interesting things, and like, not everybody aspires to be a professional on stage. Some people have a beautiful time just kind of freaking their friends out, and that's okay too. I used to be on a bandwagon going around to magic lectures going, if you're not doing magic every day, you're not a magician, you're a hobby, you know. And I don't really believe that anymore. And this is why. If you go to the opera, remember the opera? If you go to the opera, most of the people in the audience probably don't sing, but they probably know all the stats on opera players, you know, the way, you know, baseball fans may not play baseball, but they know everything about the players and the clubs and everything. If you go to the opera, they may know all about the sets, who wrote the opera, all the different singers, the history of people that played this role. And that's the same thing in magic. I don't think every magician needs to be original. I think everybody needs to get what they need from magic. However, when they decide to become a professional and join the professional ranks, now the game changes. You can sit home and read Genie magazine and be in your magic club and cool and be a collector and be a historian, and that's great. But if you're going to put yourself out there as a professional full-time magician, the stakes, I think, do change. And then the question of originality arises, or a question of acceptance or being labeled as a cover band. There are some cover bands that go out and that's what they need at a wedding. They don't want originals. They don't want your original music. They want to hear "We Are Family." They want to hear that.
Yeah.
Because that's what, and some magic shows are like that too for different venues. So this is a big discussion, but I think you hit the nail on the head. When you rise up to a professional, the game does change. And that is what we do. We help the student in our school where they are at. You want to do school shows? Great, we'll help you with your school show. You're a retired executive that wants to do charity shows. Okay, you're probably not going to need to do FISM winning material. You're going to go around. It would be nice, and we'll show you FISM winning material and teach it to you. But that may not be your calling. You might be happy, doing a cut and restored rope, a silken egg, and linking rings. And that's because that's what you need. And if you do that enough, your originality will seep into it. So we help a lot of people that come to our school. Some people come to our school that are 12 years old, and they turn out to be Matt Franco.
Yeah, who was on this program and is a delight. He's incredible.
Right. He was here 12 years old. We had no idea. And I was talking on the phone with him today. We've become friends ever since, And, he had seen me on TV. I, 12 years old, but I treated a 12 years old with the same respect as I do with a retired businessman that wants to do charity shows. And there's some people are wanting to win a competition. So we work on their competition act. People like Aaron Crow came to our master classes, and then he won FISM with a no talking mentalism act. Go figure. And then went on to tour with the Illusionists. So I help people where they're at and encourage them to stay in contact with me, because sometimes that vision changes. Okay, I want to be a part-time pro and do shows, and now I want to work the Magic Castle.
Right.
So people's vision changes. They go, I can get on stage. I've been doing pretty good. I think I'm going to enter that gold medal competition. Yeah. And then we can help them there. And some people have other goals. Some people, just want to go out and do family and friends parties. Some people just want to do cruise ships. That's that they want to get on a cruise ship. That's what they want to do. They want to go see the world. They want those 2 different 45 minutes and the 15-minute bumper, and we can deliver that too. But it takes a lot of work. So we meet the student where they're at. And we have incredible online presence, because we have all of the online shows. People are going, wow, I got my first couple of Zoom shows this week. Our mystery school has been on 9 years. We've nearly 500 hours on Zoom doing shows.
Unbelievable.
Of different content. Each hour is unique. We're not repeating.
And 0 hours of pants.
No, we always wear pants. That's it. And many of the recent episodes since the pandemic are available online for free at magicalwisdom.com or mcbridemagic.tv. And you'll see Monday night we did Charlie Fry interview talking about the great quarantini phenomenon and how we develop material, material specifically for the internet. We had Max Maven on, who gave us the complete history of touch the screen magic from its beginnings back in the 1600s, where these different kind of principles appeared that then evolved
in one person at a time.
That's right. And so he gave us the complete history of that. And so we have some really exciting episodes that are all free that delve into these things.
Well, I appreciate that philosophy a lot, because I think I might still be in my angry New York phase. So I still have my.
No, you're there. I see it. I see it every day. It's that bitter New Yorker.
One of the things that came up that is great, because you are such a professional. Everything you do, even this, your backdrop is perfect. Everything is great. I had heard a story from a mutual friend of ours. He was actually a counselor at Magic Camp when I first met him, Scott Hitchcock. And he described you guys trying to get to Monaco to do a performance there, and the plane being delayed, realizing you might not have time to do any tech. And I'll let you finish the story.
Well, we were, it was the Grand Prix de Magie de Monte Carlo for Princess Stephanie and Prince Albert of Monaco, the royal family. And I had the good fortune of doing this 4 times over the span of about a 25-year period, representing the United States. So we had a big illusion show in a really big circus tent theater where they have the Circus Olympics, the Grand Prix of Circus. And I remember Brunette was the guy that was producing the show. And our planes were delayed. We're in the airport, and we know that we're not going to get a rehearsal. So what we did, we were delayed quite a few hours. So we put a bunch of tables together.
And who was there? It's you and Scott. I think Tobias is there as well, right?
Luna Shimada was in the show then. Steve Turner, Steve Vincent was in the show. And if there was anybody else in the show, I'll think of them in a moment. But Scott was there, and Scott was lead assistant. And what we did is we gathered.
I think I have somebody who was at this rehearsal and in the show. Jen Adams is.
Oh, Jen is there. Jen, yes.
You're muted right now, so if you could just hit the unmute button.
I was just talking about your dad.
Hi.
Look at you, so surprised. That's beautiful. Now, Jen, I met Jen at the retreat center in Monroe, Ananda Ashram, back when her dad was
Yep, he was definitely one of the directors there. one of the founders of it. But we met before Mystery School happened. But yes, I was, in fact, we were in Nice, actually, in the airport in Nice, laid over. Yeah, we were laid over, exhausted, all of us really tired already, and realized that we were going to miss our first tech rehearsal. So we got pushed all of our tables together. In fact, I was just digging through my Facebook because somewhere I have a photo of the table. We got a fast food tray, and then we got salt and pepper shakers and packets, and each one represented each one of us. And then we put them down exactly where they were supposed to go. And we had someone humming the music, and then we'd move our little pieces where they were supposed to go, and we just rehearsed in the best way that we could.
It was like the war room, like those the World War II war rooms where they're pushing tanks around. But I think the stilt dancers with the salt shakers, as I remember.
Yep. Yes. We're the crossing salt and pepper kimono girls, and then Yeah, it was. I mean, we made it work.
Jack Adams, right?
Yes.
So, Jeff, did you know Jack first, or what's the connection between Jack, Jen, and you?
Well, I met, Jack was legendary in New York as being the actor magician. Anybody that was, studying theater, like I was studying theater, Jack was the guy that was the professional actor and did an amazing show, the Great Merlin Magic Show. And we became friends because he was one of the people that was a wise elder teacher. And he not only did an amazing show, but he had a rich interior life. And so I gravitated towards him because he just wasn't somebody that was full of crap show business guy looking out for themselves. They were actually a person that cared.
That's true.
Right? No, it's true.
That's very true.
And then through Jack, I met Jenny and the rest of the family, and we became.
You're one of the few people I still allow to call me Jenny, by the way.
Huh?
It's Adam to everyone else.
No, it's just something. Only people who've known me for years still call me Jenny, and you're certainly still allowed to.
and Jen, now you also do a lot of comedy as well, right?
I transitioned from doing magic into doing stand-up, and I spent 20 years in that business. And then I had a daughter and realized that I'm not traveling anymore. And I opened my own venue. I live in Boise, Idaho. I opened a venue called The Lounge at the End of the Universe. And it very much keeps the spirit of Mystery School and of my dad alive. It's a place for new performers and existing successful performers to come. We collaborate together on projects. We try weird new things with each other that are, I think, innovative. And it's an open, very encouraging space that is for creativity. We don't. Really, our motto is, "This is the place where grudges come to die." It's true, and if you're not willing to participate,
which is where dreams come to die.
I've experienced that one before. But we get together in the spirit of creativity, which we all put something that is bigger and higher than ourselves, that we are, kind of the servants of, and we make theater together, and we make art together, and it's a lot of fun, and it's beautiful.
Oh, that's great.
So much. And are there any fun stories you could share of Jeff on the road?
Oh man, I'm not sure how many are appropriate.
On the internet.
Right, I know. He's like, hey,
I think he's trying to erase your memory. I don't think that only works in black.
Who are you? God, I'm trying to think. Oddly enough, what comes to mind is it was our first year that we did Mystery School at St. Vincent's College, which I think was off the Sprainbrook Parkway in New York. Or I don't know, they all look the same to me. They're all scary death roads. But we were all sitting around at the big sort of opening circle, and there was like this dead squirrel in the field. And I'm sure Jeff remembers this. We'd all worked really hard to put the whole thing together and get the rooms all right. And there's all this coordination and all these things going on. And here we are at this big opening circle, and there was just this smell of death in the air. and nobody wanted to address it. And so like, here's sort of the head guy of everything who like walks up and just like picks it up and just flings it off to the side and is like, okay, let's keep going. And we did. I mean, it's just kind of a perfect example. And I think he probably, this came up through all of the experience that we all had of like, yeah, sure, you get to be the person on the stage, but also you're going to bring someone else's table on, or you know what, you might be digging this bathroom trench out in the woods. But we are all in this together, and level doesn't exclude you from still being a part of the community and still doing whatever needs to be done.
That's right. That's right. There was an incredible at those early mystery schools, incredible leveling of status. Of course, there was the master teachers, but there was a sense of camaraderie that wasn't present at other magic gatherings.
Yeah.
Where there's a lot of posturing and people trying to outdo each other and competition, status competition. We were all in this together, so we were never not worried about getting our hands dirty and doing the work.
No, it was about collaboration over competition.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
There you go. That's right. And it was about communication instead of controversy.
Yes.
Jen, thank you so much for joining us. I know you did it last
Thank you for
Love
inviting
you.
me. This was fun.
I
I love you so much.
loungeboise.com. Is that the address for the
That is it, loungeboise.com.
Are you guys doing anything during quarantine that they could
Yes, as a matter of fact, we started about 8 weeks ago. We painted the entire interior green. We have 2 live stream techs. We live stream all of our shows. We started putting art classes online and DJs online and all kinds of stuff. We haven't really done any magic live stream yet, but it looks like that void is being filled really well, and that's exciting. We had a comedy competition on just all kinds of stuff. So we're pivoting and basically reacting to what the situation is as well. So it's been a really fun adventure. We're monetarily it's not as exciting as it used to be, but the creativity level has just been upped by the need for it. So all of these people have shown up from our tribe, and they're all interacting and working together, and we're making it go.
Good. I'll come and do a spot.
That would be amazing.
I get 10%.
Thank you for inviting me. This was a lot of fun. I'm going to stick around and watch the rest.
He's booking.
Yes.
Thanks so much, Jen. And you can check it out at loungeboise.com, BOISE.com. And by the way, talking about the spirit of collaboration, and in your first interview in Genie, 1992, Max Maven asked you who were the young magicians to watch, and you gave this answer. You said Marko Tempest is Swiss precision. He has a commitment to perfection in every detail, and his dynamic movement style makes for impeccable magic. Guess what, Jeff? We have a surprise guest. That boy's all grown up, and he's here for you now. It's Marko Tempest, everybody.
Yeah, wow, Marco. I was just talking about you today.
I feel a little bit like an imposter being in this show. Well, thank you for inviting me, Harrison. But like hearing the whirlwind story of your life, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just the one thing I would want to start with is kind of gratitude, I guess. So my background is I'm from Switzerland, and which is has a limited influx on creative inspiration, you could say, right? So when me and Martin back in the early 80s heard about this magician, which starts his act by screwing off his head and shooting cards into the theater, and then being able to possibly meet this guy and see him perform at FISM, this was like, my state of mind back then was like, there must be more to magic than what it currently is in Switzerland. And Jeff was kind of this like beacon of inspiration to say that anything is possible in magic. You can do whatever you want if you do it right? So and then maybe to go one step further, it's like when I had the chance to then meet Jeff, I was able to meet Jeff as Tenants Jubilee in New York. We're able to perform together at Hunter College, and being kind of exposed to this kind of openness, like just as Jeff did in this, as you did, Jeff, in this conversation. Now you're so openly giving credits to everybody. You're praising everybody who has talent. you gave me the key to your apartment in New York. If you need a place to stay, you can stay here. Like, oh, I'm listening to this music. It's really good. You want to have a copy of that CD? It's like just this generosity of bringing people along, recognizing their talents, making introductions. I got introduced to my agent through Jeff. He was like so generous to like share. Back then it was this little company which was formed around JEFF McBRIDE, which was O'Leary, Fitch and Beckwith. And I think Tobias, I saw him in the chat right now, kind of to be that generous to bring another magician into the fold and share your kind of your most intimate relationships as far as business development with somebody just on a hunch. We were not close friends back then, but like Jeff had this kind of, I think he saw something in us which back then I didn't see myself yet. So I feel a little bit like an imposter, but great to be on. And thank you, Jeff, for all the inspiration and helping kind of grow this thing I became now.
Yeah, you're out of this world right now.
Yeah. He also, by the way, wore the same turtleneck that you wore in this photo. So
yeah, exactly.
Is him trying to dress like a young JEFF McBRIDE in Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
But Marco, Mark DeSouza, who's also watching, said, ask Marco about United Artists.
Okay. Yeah, so we had this act. So my friend Martin Gauthier and myself, we created this act, which was one magician with 4 hands. And we incorporated breakdancing because that's how we met, how Martin and I met. We were like dancing on the street together. And we financed this act by actually doing street performances and collecting money and, busking and creating this act. And it was this kind of thing you put together and it feels like you're onto something, but you only really know once you expose it to an audience. It was just this one thing. It was just the right moment, the right mixture of like traditional magic and popular culture. And it just worked really well for us. And maybe one anecdote from that was we tried to enter FISM with the act and it didn't work. We were rejected by the Swiss Magic Society. They said it was not magic enough. It was just dancing and we were not really qualified to represent like Switzerland at FISM. So I went ahead and forged the signature on the entry form, and we got called out while we were performing at FISM in Madrid on stage. So we were disqualified while we were on stage. But we got a huge standing ovation, and the amazing Randy was there, and he saw us, and he actually brought us. He believed in this. He's like, you have to come to America. This is like, don't worry about them disqualifying you. Just come. This is gonna work so great. I have an audience for you. And he brought us to the US. We stayed at his house for a couple of months. We drove across the country to New York, where we met JEFF McBRIDE and had a show together at Hunter College. And from there on, it was kind of this, I would say maybe the missing link for us was like self-confidence. Like we had all that stuff and it kind of felt right, but we were insecure, or maybe to the outside world, it looks like we were stuck up about it a little bit. But to have this audience and to see, like to have our idols around us and like somebody like JEFF McBRIDE say, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. This is so wonderful. You guys are, that makes all the difference. I think when you start out, it's really, so to have a school like Jeff has right now, where people can come and learn the craft, but also have this, to have a mentor, somebody, who sees the talent in you and believes in you, that's worth so much. Like not be underestimated how much that means. Right?
People need encouragement, and they don't get that so much from their peers sometimes. But when
especially when you're young, right?
Right. And when it comes from somebody that's been in the business a little bit longer, it's one thing if your buddy says, "Hey, you're great," but it's different if Johnny Thompson says that's great, or Channing Pollock says that's great, or Siegfried says that's great, or somebody saying, "I want to help you with your career. I want to give you a break. I want to give you the key to my apartment. I want you to meet my manager. I don't
know if that's a great gift, because you also gave that address out on every playing card you handed to the
right. And the door is open. 305 West 52nd Street. Just knock. Go on in.
The address. Enjoy.
Go on in. Apartment 1A. Just knock. Just go in. The door's open. Hell's Kitchen.
That's amazing. And Marco, do you have any other memories of Jeff that you want to share?
I think that's kind of sums it up. I mean, it's like
it's amazing.
Jeff and I, we live kind of in different spaces of the magical universe, but our interactions, to me, certainly were super meanbecause whenever they happen.
Yeah, we just got to work at Magic Live together on a nice show.
That's amazing. I love that, because I think the young magicians who are watching this, Marco, you're this tech-driven guy. You're just on Britain's Got Talent, which if you guys have not seen that clip, you should absolutely watch. He killed it with drone magic, mind-reading drones, unbelievable stuff. Jeff is doing a more traditional, old school, sometimes a throwback stuff where he's using ancient traditions. And even though there are differences, there's that link in history where one person encouraged the other, and that's part of the brother and sisterhood of magic that I think makes being a magician so special.
That's right. That's great. Thanks for bringing us together again. This is your life.
Yes, exactly. Marco, thank you so much. I know you have another show to get to.
Thanks for having me on.
Make sure you
Great
watch.
seeing you, Jeff.
Yeah, it just went online. Marco Tempest, everybody.
That was a great act. Look it up. Tempest and Cote.
Yeah, I got to check that out. I love it so much. And by the way, somebody just said 1A is my current address. I don't know if he lives in your apartment, but evidently it's on the market.
Okay, there you go. 305 West 52nd Street. That's the place. I spent like 19 years there, on and off, in Manhattan. Yeah.
That's amazing.
I don't miss it at all.
Around the world. I know recently you did a tour in China.
We have an arena tour of China.
How large are the audiences for that arena tour?
5,000, 7,000.
And was how pre-corona was this? Are we finding out now that this tour was patient zero?
No, this was a year before that.
Gotcha.
The year before that. But we've been going to China. China's a big magic market, and we have, Greg Gleason does an amazing illusion show, and I do the in-one sort of audience participation. We had a great cast. We had Will Bradshaw and Bill Cook as our two kind of magician stage assistants, and they also did their own solo spots. Dean Gunnarsson was the escape artist, awesome, and Arian Black. She did her dove act and illusions in the show too. And Tobias Beckwith was really the driving force that made that happen as manager and production manager of the show to make that happen. That's a lot. It's hard work to be able to do that, to be able to take a big show like that on the road. But we were doing really, really big places. And when this cloud passes, we'll be back on the road with Las Vegas Magic Stars.
Yeah, it's a great poster. I love everything about it, but I want to hear somebody else's side just in case, because we have Greg Gleason with us, everybody.
Hey, Jeff. How you guys doing?
How's it going, Greg? How was the tour in China with Jeff?
It was a blast. It was a lot of work, but it was fun doing arenas. It's completely different than doing smaller theaters. When you walk out and there's 5,000 people, it's just amazing. And we had a good time. I want to tell you a quick story about Jeff first before we do anything about China. I was in high school, and there was a magic magazine. It was called the Magic Magazine, but not Stan Allen's Magic Magazine. It was called the Magic Magazine, but
Byron Walker.
Byron Walker, that's right. And you actually bought it at the supermarket or the grocery store. And I opened it up, and there was this picture of this young magician. And me and Jeff are pretty close to the same age. And I go,
16. 16?
Yep. And that's how old I was when I picked that up. And what was funny was I go, I should be friends with this guy. And it took 30 years for our paths to cross. But after we're great friends, and we hang out before the quarantine, usually at least once
a week.
Once a week, because we live 5 miles from each other.
Right. And Greg works out a lot at Wonderground.
That's right.
And was on our first virtual Wonderground that we had last month. We're going to have another one on the 21st.
Oh,
we're the only show open in Las Vegas.
That's fantastic. Although I don't know if Greg's collection compares to yours because he has a cabinet to his left that is literally empty.
That's a water torture cell.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
There's no water in it. There's a milk can right here.
Oh, that's incredible.
That's right.
Wow.
So,
have you used that water torture cell in the past?
No, I never have, and I don't think I ever will. That's a young man's game.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
I've never been in it, but I have no desire, I think, to go underwater for that. But I know we were talking a little bit earlier about China. You guys, I heard, had very different experiences.
Well, I think it was hot. It was hot. It was hot.
It was very hot. I think it was probably the hottest summer they had had in a long time. It was over 100 degrees almost every day, with the humidity probably pretty close. And what I was telling Harrison a little bit earlier today, Jeff, was our acts are so different. All the logistics of setting up my illusion show in China is a whole nother story. And it wasn't the first time I was in China, so I knew what to expect. I had done a contract for 6 months in China before, and I had done Happy Valleys. And what happens in China is right after the show, they go, okay, show's over, air conditioner goes off, and the lights go off. And I remember one time it was in Happy Valley. I got there, I knew what was going to happen. So on the first day, I said, okay, on the last show, on the last day, you have to leave the lights on and leave the air on. We have to take care of our props. We have to pack them up, put them in the cases. And every day they said, no problem, no problem, no problem. We get to the last day, we finish the show, the air is off. We're taking apart all of my props out in a parking lot with car lights. They had to turn on car lights so we could see the pieces to take them apart and put them in the cases. But
there's no business like show.
That doesn't even touch what happened.
Who's booking that?
That's not even close to what happened on our tour. On our tour, one of the arenas was like,
this is amazing story. How they ever had a venue like this built is beyond belief. Go ahead, Greg.
The whole main floor of the arena is like 3 stories up. It's like, you know, the movie Rocky where he runs up the stairs. That's how you get into the arena. And there's no elevators. There's no ramps. There is no way to get the props up to just the audience level, let alone the stage level, except for cranes. And, you know, these are one-nighters. This isn't like we're, you know, getting in a week before and setting up. We have to set it up that day and do the show and strike it that day. But the cranes is one thing, but the space we had the crane there was literally a jungle 6 feet behind the arena, 6 feet. So the crane would go up and it would get our props. And I'm talking, you know, not little props. My helicopter case alone is maybe 9 feet long and 5 feet wide and 6 feet tall and, you know, 1,000 pounds. And we're trying to crane things between a jungle and an arena in the dark in 100-degree weather. And that's how I remember China on that tour.
Who's booking that?
Yeah. By the way, we got a great idea from Mark D'Souza, who said you should use the water cell as an aquarium.
I think they tried that at the Magic Castle, one of those like aquarium shows, built a Houdini aquarium, and I heard it leaked a little bit.
Yeah, evidently it holds up just long enough for the cameras to get a shot of it, and then as soon as the cameras go off,
you're on your own.
Yeah. Exactly. Being in China. Oh, that's amazing. I love that. I think you should rename, if you do the tour again, you should just call it Schwitzing in the Dark. I think that would be a wonderful title. Greg, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it.
Harrison, good seeing you, Jeff. Talk to you guys later.
Thanks so much. Oh,
this
Greg,
is your life.
And now, Diana Ross. No. Jeff, thank you so much for joining us. I always end every show because a lot of young magicians are watching this show, and you're one of the best magic teachers out there. What is a piece of advice that you haven't already given over the course of this great show, but what is a piece of advice that you would give a young magician right now who's learning magic?
Well, study and spend personal time with masters. It's one thing to be able to just learn from books or DVDs, but you will get a different quality of magic history, of lineage, of mentorship by studying with a master. And it starts with just an email, just hi. And that's how it started with Eugene, just a little note. I just wrote him a little note. And today it's an email. So if they're young magicians or old magicians, because I work with magicians any age, just like I had my address on my card years ago, I am jeff@mcbridemagic.com. jeff@mcbridemagic.com, and just start a conversation and we'll point you in the right direction. Whether you're young, whether you're old, whether you're professional or just passionate hobbyist or enthusiast.
That's amazing. And I think it's a testament that you are such an inspiration to so many people and truly deserving of all the awards and success that you've gotten. So I thank you so much for joining us. If people want to go to the mystery school, it's magicalwisdom.com. If you want to go to mcbridemagic.tv, there's also it's a great resource to check out as well. Jeff, thank you so much for spending this time with me. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for all you do for magic.
I love it. Thanks for what you're doing too. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Wow, my pleasure. Thanks so much, Jeff. Jeff McBride, everybody. Unbelievable. What a fun evening with an incredible legend of magic. And thank you for tuning in. We have people literally from all around the world watching. Linda in Australia saying thank you, Jeff. We had Tina Leonard before, who's a phenomenal magician. Scott Wells is in the house. Jen Adams is still there. She's amazing. Thank you so much for doing the show as well. And a huge thank you to everybody who popped in. Marco Tempest, Jen Adams, and Greg Gleason, all wonderful people, and I appreciate their time so much. And of course, a giant thank you to Jeff McBride for being our guest, as well as all the other people who helped me with the research, Tobias Beckwith, Scott Hitchcock. Thank you so much, too, for lending your stories and your time. And a huge thank you to the International Brotherhood of Magicians, the IBM, the president, Alexander, who has been so incredibly supportive of this show. It is every Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. If you're on the East Coast, there you go, Monday and Wednesday at 7 p.m. EDT, 4 p.m. PDT. And you can join the IBMmagician.org/join the IBM/join. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Harrison Comedy. We have an incredible lineup for next week. Can't wait for you guys to see that announcement. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much again. My name is Harrison Greenbaum, and this has been Who Books That? We'll see you here again on Monday. Who books that? I'm singing the song. I'm singing the song. It's the song and I'm singing.